If you're a bassist who's not actively trying to preserve your wrists and hands, then there's a good chance you're accidentally causing damage to them. I'm sorry to be a bit of a fearmonger about this, but some of these injuries can mean that you might have to quit playing for months or even have surgery, and I have seen a lot of comments from you guys asking about how to avoid things like tendonitis and carpal tunnel syndrome. I've been playing bass for over 21 years at this point, and I'm very glad to say, knock on wood, that I've never really had any problems with my wrists or hands, even though I've gone through periods where I've been practicing for 6 hours per day every day. So while I'm not a doctor, I want to share 5 things that have really helped me to play for this long with no issues. Feel free to try them and hopefully they'll work for you too. I'll start with the easiest and least time-consuming habit and slowly work my way up to the more complex ones. The first one is probably something you've heard before, but maybe you're not putting it into practice. You've got to have your bass strap set to a good height. Most bassists, including me, wear our bass is way too low when we first start out. I know it looks much cooler to have your bass low down, but unfortunately it's really bad for the wrist on your fretting hand. When you have your bass that low, you have to bend your wrist very far upwards in order to fret the fretboard.
Wrong, 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 wrong.
And if you do this for a long period of time, it really puts a lot of strain on there. You want to have your bass at a height where your wrist can be pretty straight and neutral on your fretting hand, and then on your plucking hand, you want to have your wrist not be resting on the body, or if it is resting on the body, just quite lightly. I find that usually my right forearm is lightly resting on the body, but it's not pushing or digging in really hard, and I've never had any problems in my right hand. The next quick fix that'll save your hands and wrists is adjusting your string action. If you have a really high string action, you have to use a lot of pressure to fret the notes. This means that your hand is just working much harder than it needs to, and over time, this can lead to injuries. I have a very simple approach to adjusting string action. I just lower each string as much as I can until I start noticing fret buzz, and then I just raise it a little bit. This means that each string is as close to the fretboard as it can get while still sounding good, which for me is the ideal combination. The next thing that's going to save your hands is stretching. A few months ago I noticed I was starting to get some upper back and neck pain, and so I did some research on stretches that could alleviate that. Now every morning I start my day with a 10-minute stretching routine that's really helped so much to get rid of any tension or pain. The main stretches I do are shoulder rolls, neck circles, this neck one, and whatever this one's called. Before every practice session, I also do a stretching routine for my hands that Michael Manring taught me. Basically, you start by holding out your right hand and then using your thumb to pull down the index finger and just hold it in place. Then you take your other hand and you push back the remaining fingers with that hand and hold it there for about 10 seconds. Once you've done that, you just do the exact same thing, but now you're holding down the middle finger and pushing back the rest of the fingers. And then you repeat this for the ring and the pinky finger, and then you can also push the thumb back like this. And once you've done all the fingers on that hand, you just do the exact same thing, but for your other hand. Do that before every practice routine and your hands will feel much more flexible and relaxed. The fourth really good habit to build is practicing with relaxed and efficient technique. This one definitely takes more time, but it's probably actually the most important element on this list. Most bassists, including me, start out by gripping the neck way harder than you need to, pushing down on the fretboard much harder than you need to, and using much bigger movements than you need to. You really don't need to move your hands very much at all to play most bass lines and solos, including the really fast ones. Try a little experiment with me right now where you take your middle finger and put it on fret 3 on the A string, just rest it lightly there at first, and then start plucking. And gradually apply more pressure with your left finger. And just keep putting more pressure until it sounds nice and it's not buzzing anymore. And then just keep that exact same amount of pressure and hold it there. So this is the minimum amount of pressure that you need in order to play. And now that you know how it feels, you can start practicing exercises and simple bass lines while consciously applying this amount of pressure. With enough practice, this will just become your muscle memory, and you'll be using this minimum amount of pressure to just play everything that you normally play. And that means that your hands are going to get tired much less quickly, and you're going to be less susceptible to injuries. And if you're looking for technique exercises to help you with this, there's hundreds on the Basecamp Patreon that I created for you. Before we move on to the final element, I just want to add here that during your practice sessions, it's very important to take breaks. I usually practice in 5-minute bursts with about 15 seconds of rest in between, and every 45 minutes I take about a 5-minute break. Doing this will not only save your hands and wrists, but actually also just help you get more out of your practice sessions. Also, from my experience, I've found that it's okay to feel a little bit of short-term soreness if you've just done a really intense period of practice, but any kind of more different types of pain, like short stabbing pains or more long-term pains, or anything that feels like it's maybe more focused on the joints, that's probably a sign that you need to stop right now and take a break. Okay, finally, the last element is actually the one that's probably the biggest time commitment. The final element is just committing to a healthy lifestyle. All the usual advice about exercising regularly and eating healthily and getting enough sleep actually also make a surprisingly big difference to how your hands and wrists feel. The only time I've ever felt like there was even a little bit of pain or problems starting to arise was actually when I was on a very intense tour where I was getting very little sleep each night. We also weren't eating very healthily, mostly just fast food and stuff like that, and I was spending most of the day in a cramped van, which meant I really wasn't getting any exercise. Despite the fact that I was only playing for about 1 hour per day instead of my usual 5 or 6 at that time, I could feel by the last day or two that my hands weren't really working quite as well as before. So this really goes to show that with good technique and lifestyle habits, you can practice a lot with no problems at all, whereas if you have bad lifestyle habits and you're not practicing proper technique, then even just a little bit of playing each day can lead to problems. So there you go. Those are my top 5 ways to avoid injury to your hands and wrists. Even if you're not experiencing any pain right now, I'd still recommend that you try these things out and hopefully commit to them so that you can avoid having problems down the road. If you want to start building safe and efficient technique, you can find hundreds of exercises on the Basecamp Patreon, as well as music theory lessons, practice tips, and much more. I hope you found this video helpful. Have fun practicing, and I'll see you in the next lesson.